What's up, guys? Today we're going to be talking about the top 5 best old flagship smartphones that you can pick up at a great price at around $300. So let's go ahead and get started here with the Samsung Galaxy S10 Plus. I've really been enjoying this phone, and it is exactly around 300 bucks, and I'll have all those links down below. This is an awesome phone for power users as well that don't want to break the bank. So you have a full premium design, aluminum frame, glass back. It is IP68 dust and water resistant as well, and it overall just has a really good premium feel to it. It does have a dynamic AMOLED display with HDR10 Plus at 6.4 inches, and it also has the double punch hole and a slight curve to the display. It's not anything too super dramatic, but it is a 1440p display at 522 for the PPI. Extremely sharp display, beautiful colors, really deep blacks, what you would expect from Samsung. Still a top-notch quality display as far as color and brightness goes. This phone is upgradable to Android 11, and you also are running the Snapdragon 855 and Adreno 640, which means that this phone can do pretty much high-end gaming, no problem. So check out my full gaming test. You can play Call of Duty, Fortnite, PUBG, all of that really well. So it's definitely still good for gaming. In addition, you do have 128 gigs of internal storage and 8 gigs of RAM. You also have some really nice sounding stereo speakers on here as well. The bass is pretty good on here, and you do still retain the headphone jack on the S10 Plus. So for all my people who just can't live without a headphone jack, definitely check this phone out. It does come with NFC. The fingerprint scanner under the display is pretty fast. I didn't have an issue with it. It also has a little bells and whistles like Samsung desktop support and all that good stuff. Reverse wireless charging as well. And you do have some pretty good cameras on here. A triple camera setup, a 12 megapixel standard, a 12 megapixel telephoto, and a 16 megapixel ultra wide with 4K video at 60 frames per second, and then a 10 megapixel selfie, and then also an 8 megapixel wide selfie. So if you're with a group setting, then it'll be easy to take a shot, and that also does 4K 60 FPS. So the S10 Plus battery life is also pretty good. It's a 4,100 milliamp battery with 15-watt charging, with wireless charging as well. I was able to get through the day still with the S10 Plus, so I didn't have a issue with it. I think a normal person will be able to get through a full day, no problem. So the S10 Plus is definitely a phone that you guys should check out. Next is the LG V60. This phone came down to 330 bucks, and guys, that is an epic deal for this phone. So you do have a premium design. It's a full glass and metal design, aluminum frame, glass back, IP68 dust and water resistant. The phone really feels like a tank, extremely solid. You also have on here a 6.8 inch POLED HDR10 Plus display at 1080p 395 for the PPI. It does have the little water drop notch. The display is fine. It's very colorful. It gets very bright and very sharp, so no issues there. Mine is running Android 11 on top of the Snapdragon 865, and then you also have the Adreno 650. This game will pretty much play anything maxed out, so it does an excellent job with gaming. There's no game that it can't play. In addition, you do have the dual screen case that you can take advantage of if you're a gamer as well, or if you just want to use this phone as two phones, you could definitely do that. So it is a very powerful phone for that. You do have micro SD support, 128 gigs of internal storage, and 8 gigs of RAM. So this phone, again, very fast, very powerful. You also have on here some really nice sounding stereo speakers. It just gets really loud bass. But in addition, you also have a headphone jack with a quad DAC. So anyone that is into high quality audio listening, this phone should be very appealing to you. So you also have on here NFC as well, so you can do your mobile payments. The in-display fingerprint scanner is fine. It's not the fastest, but I definitely don't have any issues with it. It works. It's not the fastest. But you also have a triple camera setup on here, a 64 megapixel standard, a 13 megapixel ultra wide, and a 0.3 depth sensor, as well as 8K video and a 10 megapixel selfie that shoots in 4K. Images on the V60 are very sharp. Again, for this price point, zero complaints. Very good color accuracy on here, good dynamic range, good detail. The ultra wide is very close to the main lens. I was really happy with image quality on the V60, so again, no real complaints there. The V60 shines in the battery department with a 5,000 milliamp battery as well as wireless charging. So this phone can really last you easily all day, if not 2 days, if you're a lighter user. So I just really enjoy using the V60. It is an awesome device. Next is the iPhone 10. This this is still my favorite iPhone when it comes to price to spec ratio. I just still love the design on this phone. I still think it looks very clean, very classy looking design on here. Glass back, stainless steel frame. It's IP67 dust and water resistant. It has the Super Retina OLED display, HDR10 Plus with Dolby Vision. It's a 5.8-inch display, so it's kind of rare to find phones with a screen size under 6 inches. It is 1125 by 2436 resolution, 458 for the PPI, so it's a very sharp display, and also it's a very colorful display. So the display is pretty nice on the 10. And then we have iOS 15 running on this guy with the Apple A11 chip. The phone is still blazing fast for me, so I don't have any issues with speed. It still plays games pretty well. And yeah, so just no issues in terms of speed and just navigating and stuff like that. It is still a pretty fast phone, and I still think this phone will get updates for years to come. You also have 64 gigs of internal storage and 3 gigs of RAM on the base model. You do have some pretty nice sounding stereo speakers as well. They have a good bass to them as well. They get really loud. You also have NFC with your Apple Pay. Face ID still works perfectly fine on here. It's very fast. And the cameras on the 10, so you do have a dual camera setup, but it's a 12 megapixel standard and a 12 megapixel telephoto, so no ultra wide with this guy. And you also have 4K video at 24, 30, or 60 FPS, along with a 7 megapixel selfie. So this phone does a fine job in good lighting scenario. So if you're in good lighting, you can definitely get a shot that you'll be satisfied with 100%. It's only when you take it out of good lighting, put it sort of in like a low light settings, that it just doesn't perform as well as newer phones that we see nowadays. But still, I think for the casual snapper, video on here still looks good. You can easily FaceTime and all that stuff. The cameras are still solid on the iPhone 10 for sure. Now you do have a 2716 milliamp battery with 15-watt fast charging and wireless charging. So basically, if you have good battery health, this phone will easily be able to squeeze out 5 to 6 hours of screen on time, which is definitely enough for most people. That's about a full day's use. And again, that's if you have good battery health. But the iPhone 10 is definitely an awesome device to consider. Next is the Samsung Galaxy Note 9. So the refurbished ones are going for around 300, but the thing is they can hike the prices up on these, because I see some of them going for 400. You can get a Galaxy Note 10 for that, so don't buy these for 400. Basically it's because it's got a stylus. It's like one of the only phones with a stylus nowadays, the Note series. But this is still an awesome phone. So it's got an aluminum frame, it's got a glass back, IP68 dust and water resistant as well. And again, the highlight with this phone is obviously the stylus. If you're into just wanting to navigate with a built-in stylus, or if you're into digital artwork, you like to draw on your phone and stuff like that, this is definitely one of the best phones for that at a really good price. You have a 6.4-inch Super AMOLED display. It's HDR10 at 1440p resolution, 516 for the PPI, and this phone actually does not have a notch or anything like that, which is really awesome as well. So the screen is beautiful, very colorful, and the blacks are really deep on here. It's still a very nice display. I believe the last update was Android 10, and it still gets security patches with the Snapdragon 845 and Adreno 630 on here. So basically this phone, you believe it or not, is still very powerful. You can still play a lot of games at max settings, no problem. So had zero issues gaming. If you want to check out that gaming test, please do. We do have on here micro SD support, and then we also have 128 gigs of internal storage and 6 gigs of RAM on here, so you have plenty of storage on here. You also have stereo speakers as well, which sound pretty good. They get very loud, good bass quality, and the Note 9 still has the headphone jack for people who want a headphone jack. NFC is also on here with all your little bells and whistles. The physical fingerprint scanners on the back works fine, very fast. Samsung desktop support is on here as well as pretty good cameras. So I was really surprised. The Note 9's cameras are actually very good. It's a 12 megapixel standard and a 12 megapixel telephoto, 4K video at 60 frames, and then an 8 megapixel dedicated camera, and then a 2 megapixel iris scanner. So they have a thing on here that scans your eye, so you can unlock your phone like that if you desire to. You do have 1440p resolution as well on that, and the images come out really clean, just really clean, detailed, sharp images, very good color. This classic Samsung image processing, very colorful shots. So I really like the cameras on here. Video was pretty solid too, so I think the cameras have aged very well with the Note 9. This phone also has pretty good battery life, a 4000 milliamp battery with wireless charging as well as 15 watt standard charging. So basically, the Note 9 can last you a day, no problem. I haven't had an issue with battery life, but yeah, guys, I really like the Note 9, especially for digital artists and people who really like stylists. All right, last would be the OnePlus 7 Pro. I'm still going strong on my 7 Pro. I have not replaced it yet as my main phone. I absolutely still love this phone. You guys know I've made 1,000 videos on it. Full screen design, beautiful display on here. It's got really nice looking hardware as well, glass back, aluminum frame. But the highlight is definitely this display. It's a fluid AMOLED display at 90 Hz, HDR10 plus, and then it's a 6.67 inch display. 1440p, 516 for the PPI. So obviously the highlight with this is the display, no punch hole, it uses the pop-up camera mechanism, and it's just a really awesome phone for looking at videos, playing games, pretty much anything. It's going to give you a super immersive experience. This is running Android 11. It will get Android 12 as well with Oxygen OS. You guys know that's one of my favorite skins on Android. You do have Snapdragon 855, Adreno 640. It plays most games really well. I think the only game it kind of struggled with was Fortnite. But everything else it plays max settings, no problem. You do not have micro SD support on here. 128 gigs of storage and 6 gigs of RAM on the base model, but majority of the ones now are 256 8 gigs, so that's probably the one you'll get. You do also have stereo speakers on here, which sound pretty good bass quality, very loud, so no issues there. You also have NFC with a under the display fingerprint sensor, which is still one of the best. It's very fast, very accurate fingerprint sensor for an under display one. You can also use Face Unlock as well with this phone too, with the pop-up camera, which is really cool. Every time I do it, people always ask, and it always gets attention. But you also have, I'm gonna say probably the worst cameras on this list, even though they're not bad by any means. But if you're looking for like the best camera phone, I would not say the 7 Pro has the best cameras. You would probably have the Silo G Cam if you really want to get the best, but it's a 48 megapixel standard, an 8 megapixel telephoto, and a 16 megapixel ultra wide. Me personally, I don't think the shots are bad, but when I compare them to the rest of the phones, I can see like why it got the flack that it did when it first came out. But I still think it's a fine camera. It takes pretty good color, detail is pretty decent. Sometimes I have to edit images, but overall, it's still a very good camera and good lighting. So it has the 16 megapixel pop-up cam. That is a pretty decent camera. So overall, it's just a decent, camera setup for a casual shooter. You do have on here a 4000 milliamp battery with 30 watt charging. So one of my favorite things about this phone is it just charges extremely fast. And battery life will definitely last you all day, so I never struggle with getting through a full day of battery life with this phone. So that is my list, guys. Be sure to let me know what you guys think, and I'll catch you guys in the next one.